Welcome to another episode of Late Nights with Lenin. I'm your host, and the reason why we need to have Late Nights with Lenin is because the establishment is not going to teach you how to beat them. So they're going to distract you away and say, oh, it's not a class struggle. It is a fight. It's not even a fight. We just need a harmony and unity in society. And if you run enough elections, have enough AOCs, anything can be done. But that's a total lie. So what they do, it's maybe intentional, maybe not. We don't know. We don't care. But they're going to put in a hegemony to keep you confused at every step. For anytime you want to do equality, any steps for equality, they're going to keep you confused. So that's why you need to read theory and learn from the best. So this week, let's see. We got permabanned on TikTok. So these are like the possible reasons why we may have gotten perma-banned on TikTok. I did say that Rosa Luxemburg was a loser and you need to learn from winners and not losers. That could have pissed off some Slackdans. I said that the only thing that mainstream corporate media is upset about is the fact that we are not celebrating Lebensraum Day on the 4th Thursday in November. Oh, and I also triggered a right-winger by saying that he could use Nicaragua's literacy program. So I don't know. Any of it could have caused me to be banned permanently. No, I mean, it's historically that they couldn't handle, not Chad Lenin. Oh yeah, I did also do a video where I called Social Democrats virgins and Lenin a Chad, because Social Democrats are like, hey, we're going to have to follow the procedure of bourgeoisie elections. And Chad Lenin's like, no, we will have a revolution. So that could also, I don't know what triggered it, but we are in the process of figuring out what we need to do. So we might have a new account or not. Oh, thank you. So I love Jackson, but thank you for leaving his stream to come here. I'm not gonna lie. It's very sweet. I love Jackson too. And but Aeolus draft is a very good point. I'm not sure how upset Social Democrats would be over Luxembourg being insulted, considering they're the ones who had her shot. That is an excellent point. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to be careful, and I'm gonna have to not take the bait about what is your biggest critique on Stalin, because that's one of those things where you're like, he didn't kill enough Nazis or something like that, and again, the TikTok's algorithm goes whoosh, kill Nazi. Oh my god, she's advocating violence or whatever. So every week we're gonna start with a segment called "What Would Lenin Say About This Article," where we use our techniques we learned from reading Lenin, mostly critical reading and trolling about an article on mainstream media. So again, this week it's New York Times is at it again. I don't know Pig Latin. Okay. U.S. forces were training the Guinean soldiers who took off to stage a coup. But let's look at the line below. The American military officials have denounced the ouster of a president in West Africa and said that they had no warning of what their students were planning. Sorry. I've had a little bit of wine too, and this doesn't make sense even with a little bit of wine. Would Zarov Tavares Stalin? Okay. American Green Berets were training local forces in the West African nation of Guinea last weekend when their charges peeled away for a mission not, let's pay close attention, not listed in any military training manual. They mounted a coup. Isn't that like literally every... No, the reason why it's not listed in the military training manual is because it's listed in the CIA training manual. Gunfire rang out as an elite Guinean special unit forces stormed the presidential palace in the capital, Conakry, early Sunday, deposing the country's 83-year-old president, Alpha Conde. Hours later, a charismatic, notice the word charismatic as opposed to authoritarian. So the fact that the New York Times is calling them like a charismatic, gorgeous young Chad officer, as opposed to what they'd call with Hugo Chavez, like authoritarian dictator. That itself shows you that the U.S. officials are very happy about this coup. And the New York Times is just like repeats and Rob said, no index needed when the manual is titled How to Do a Coup. Yes, it's ridiculous. The Americans knew him well. Of course, that's why you trained him. Hold on. A team of a dozen Green Berets had been in Guinea since mid-July to train about 100 soldiers in the Special Forces unit led by Colonel Doumbaya, who served for years in the French Foreign Legion. Why does France still have a Foreign Legion? That's kind of gross. They should be dismantled. Like, I think the French Foreign Legion should have totally been dismantled after they decided to like fight for Hitler. Yeah. But they still exist, unfortunately. Took part in the American military exercises and was once a close ally of the president he overthrew. So he's a backstabber. The United States, like the United Nations and the African Union, like, come on. Okay. So the thing is that the UN can't be like, go coup. They just have to condemn all coups by like procedure because that's just the way the UN works. The African Union's probably really condemning it, but this is like what I call reputation laundering, where they just kind of try to be like, the United States and other good people have condemned this coup, but they're like, I'm like, you're not like the other good people. So yeah. And because like the UN didn't like train mercenaries to overthrow the government. Has condemned the coup, and the U.S. military has denied having any advanced knowledge of it. Oh my God, I can see so many incubator babies in this lie. I mean, come on. Don't be like, seriously, with all the surveillance you don't know when your students are going to go coup. Come on. For the Pentagon, though, it is an embarrassment. The U.S. has trained troops in many African nations, largely for counterterrorism programs. That is absolutely false. So check out our interview on Historically with Stuart Schrader at Badges Without Borders. It is for counterinsurgency, i.e. protecting evil dictators from the wrath of their population so that the U.S. can go and loot the entire country and kill everything that moves, basically. So that's, look, it's not counterterrorism. No. It was counterinsurgency until 9/11. By the way, in the year 2000, hold on, let me just mark this. In the year 2000, Paul Wolfowitz wrote a memo calling Rebuilding America's Defenses. And in it, he said, like, oh, this plan probably can't be executed absent a new Pearl Harbor. Anyways, yeah, so that happened, and then suddenly counterinsurgency became counterterrorism. Although numerous U.S. trained officers have seized power in their countries, most notably General Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt. This is believed to be the first time one has done so in the middle of an American military course. Isn't it always in the middle of an American military course? I don't know. On Sunday, once the Green Berets realized the coup was underway, they drove straight to the U.S. Embassy in Conakry. That's not what they did, because you saw them with the coup people celebrating and hanging out and partying. So, no, that's not going to do that. But then they allegedly went to the U.S. Embassy, sure, whatever. And the training program was suspended because they had passed the test, said Kelly Callahan, a spokesperson for the U.S. Africa Command. The coup, she said, is inconsistent with U.S. military training and education. No, it is the point of U.S. military training and education. American officials are seeking to downplay the episode of initially stressed that the base where the training took place was in something I can't pronounce, Afore-Karaya, a 4-hour drive from the presidential palace, close to the Guinean border with Sierra Leone. So, okay. How many miles is that, and why is that a 4-hour drive? What infrastructure did the French bomb when Guinea was like, yeah, we don't want to be your exploited colony? So anyways, and create cholera, or was it, I don't know, diphtheria? I forgot, but the French caused another like a mass epidemic. I can't remember when. Okay. Read my article at Historically called Government of Organized Mob. But on Friday, U.S. officials said that they were investigating reports that Colonel Doumbaya and his fellow coup makers had set off in an armed convoy from the same base early on Sunday, raising the prospect that they slipped away while the instructors were sleeping. Yes, we do not have information on how the apparent okay, no, you do, because you taught them how to do it. And had no prior indication of these. Come on. Barda S. Azari is also a spokesperson for U.S. Africa Command, said in an email. The coup in Guinea is the 4th military takeover in West Africa. Following 2 coups in Mali, a disputed succession in Chad fueled worries of democratic backsliding in a coup-prone region in Africa. No, the region is not coup-prone. Come on, it's not like I don't know, you are accident-prone, because it doesn't. No. The region has a lot of things to loot. Like Guinea has a lot of oil, so the U.S. does coups because they want to loot the resources. And I have a guess, but I haven't been. This is just a guess that occurred to me right now. We need to kind of check what they were doing with the Belt and Road initiatives, and then see what the new administration thinks of the Belt and Road initiatives, and that might elucidate why these coups are happening. But it's not a coup-prone region. No. Especially from the coup-proner or coup-doer. Like, no, you do it because you want to loot. As a 4-wheel drive vehicle with Guinean soldiers perched on the back pushes through the crowd chanting freedom, one American appears to touch hands with cheering people. Wait a minute. So is the American in the 4-wheel drive with the Guinean soldiers? If Americans are involved in the push, it's because of their mining interest, like I said Diafaru Balde, a teacher in Conakry, a reference to Guinea's huge deposits of gold, iron ore, and bauxite, which is used to make is it aluminum or aluminium? I can never figure it out. Okay, aluminium. American officials said the video which showed the Green Berets confirmed that the video returned to the U.S. Embassy, but denied it implied support for the coup. the U.S. Government and military are not involved in the apparent military seizure of power in any way, Ms. Azari, the spokesperson, said. For many Guineans, America's cameo role in the coup was just one element in a week of change. Dizzying week of change. Whoa. That's an interesting way to call a coup. Just like, and just compare this with what they say when Hugo Chavez won an election. They're like already, like when he won an election fair and square, they're like, brutal dictator who oppresses his own people. Like, is he, like, they literally took 2 days before they're like, is he gonna be a brutal dictator? And it's like, he just won an election fair and square. And now they're like, they know that right now they can't like say, oh my God, this is like a hot coup d'oeuvre, whatever. So they're just gonna like leave little trinkets that make you not want to think he's like bad. But then like a few months later, they'll be like, oh, what a hottie, or something like hotdictators.com. I don't know, whatever they do. You'll see. If and I don't know enough to see what his interests are, so we're gonna have to just wait on to understand what was going on. The youngest is in neighboring Mali, where Colonel Assimi Goïta came to power only in May, also following a coup. After an hour-long gun battle outside the presidential palace on Sunday, which at least 11 people were killed, Guinean and Western officials have said Colonel Doumbouya appeared to be on state television wearing sunglasses and draped in a Guinean tricolor flag. He said he has been forced to seize power because of the action of President Condé, a one-time democracy campaign, elected president in 2010 after an earlier, This makes no sense. This is like word salad that conceals the truth. So I'm going to have to study this and map this out. So they're telling you so many lies here, but they're also telling you so many truths. And this is like one of those things where Lenin would split it apart and explain what's exactly going on. But with reading enough Lenin, my first look is this is something weird because they're not being specific. You don't know which is a direct object, which is the indirect object, and who's doing what. So yeah. But Mr. Condé's legitimacy slumped last year after he amended the This sounds like Evo Morales. Okay, after the election, 400. Okay, okay. So remember, it's only bad to send political opponents to prison if they're good people. So if your political opponents want to exterminate a race or something, yeah, you should definitely crack down on that opposition very hard. The harder, the better. Okay. Footage that circulated showed a disheveled, surrounded by soldiers, slouched on a sofa and looking dejected. Colonel Doumbouya has refused to say where he's being held, though envoys in West Africa's main political and economic bloc met with it said he was in good health. The president has been ousted by an officer whose career he once blessed. Okay, so I'm just gonna get back to this. Today is also 9/11. Happy birthday to Assad. I did not know this, but I wish I had that. I wish I had the soundboard where I could play the Shabasuri Allah Surya Bashar or whatever that song is. But happy birthday to 56th birthday to Bashar al-Assad. But today's also the day of the other 9/11. Salvador Allende. Again, he also was killed and overthrown by a general. So then whenever somebody's like, oh my God, how dare Stalin purge all his generals 2 years before World War II? They're actually saying, how dare Stalin won't let us celebrate Lebensraum Day in Moscow on the last Thursday in November. So yeah, that's why you need to see whenever they accuse any tactic of being authoritarian, you always have to look at what happens when people don't act authoritarian. And this is why you need to purge all. Okay. Anyways, okay. Colonel Dumbaya's shot to public attention. Okay. No, the images did not go viral on Guinean social media. That sounds a little Carla revolution-y. And just checks what they did in the National Endowment for Democracy. Yeah. Okay. No, that people are not impressed by that. That's just nonsense. That's totally color revolution-y. As a French legionnaire who served in Afghanistan, Ivory Coast, Israel. We just have to add, okay, there's a fascist loop that I call. It's like Israel, Hungary, Ukraine, USA is like the fascist loop, in my opinion. Like when you get all of those connections. Oh, Poland now too. Like that's just a fascist loop. Interesting. Married to a French military police officer. Wait. How can he? Okay. He should have been exiled, not allowed in. If you're a French citizen, you should be like permanently kicked out of the colonies. Like you cannot. Okay, so this sounds like a French guy colonized. It looks like they're recolonizing Guinea. Okay, but this is very. He should have been more than star. Okay, this looks very suspicious. I'm gonna have to figure out who to interview, what is going on, and what is to be done over the next week, because this is lighting up so many red flags. But the New York Times kind of feels the need to like have us do like they think you're really stupid. Anyways, today we have Beth A on Late Nights with Lenin. And the funny thing is we tried to figure out how many sentences we just needed to substitute the word Russia with America. And what was it? We lost count because everything applies now. And the piece we're reading, oh, by the way, this is really great. Like the piece we're reading, it's called Political Struggle and Political Chicanery. And the best thing I've ever learned is like a way to describe Chris Hayes. Lenin would have described Chris Hayes as, it's high time to dispense with your tawdry show of naivete, gentlemen. So yeah. Anyways, oh, thank you so much, Dimitri. Spasibo. Wait, no, you're Greek. I don't know how to say thank you in Greek. How do I say thank you in Greek? You should teach me how to say thank you in Greek. Yeah, so with that, enjoy. This was one of the best pieces I've read of Lenin. Like I was like listening to this. A long story. I have a text to speech thingy, and I was listening to this last night. Anyways, hope you have a good viewing, and we'll be back in about 2 hours, I think. We're going really late tonight. Welcome to Late Nights with Lenin. So today we have Beth. She's Beth Ferry on Twitter, and I guess one of my first memories of her is when we figured out that the CNN town hall had everyone was a plant. Like, do you remember that viral tweet where?
Yeah.
Was it everyone was a plant, or just like lots of them were plants?
I think about 90% of them. At least 90% of them were set up somehow from CNN or the DNC or whatever. Them, you know,
the establishment, the bourgeoisie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I remember you from much earlier than that.
I remember you, but I'm just saying this is my strongest memory of you.
That definitely makes sense. I remember being enamored with your threads on the presidents.
Oh yeah, they're all horrible people, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're just evil, horrible puppets.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is like two things that I kind of like, I've always observed. So Americans are used to having really horrible, evil people as president. So they actually can't believe that there exists like a man like Lenin who's a good person. He's like such a good person and all around, like just really good. And it's hard for them to even imagine that like somebody this good could be in power. So that's why they're like always they're quick to believe that there's like some secret conspiracy where he's secretly evil because they just can't accept that. That's the first thing. Okay. The second thing is that a lot of times I feel like while there's a lot, like we have to kind of imagine what is missing from the picture, like whose voice does not get heard. And for me, of course, it's going to be those people they bomb, like the poorest, the most like backward, like just the worse off. And so when I think about that implication, I am thinking like, oh my God, it's even more evil because it's like you're thinking about it. Like, how many times will have they said like a drone strike? I don't know, killed some Al-Qaeda member, and it's like, I don't know, just a family member, like just like a random person, even. Yeah.
Well, more recently, the bombing, that last bombing in Afghanistan, they said they killed a terrorist, somebody from the Taliban, and it turned out to be somebody working actually for the U.S. I believe it was. And yeah, the spin is strong.
Ooh, yeah, and yesterday New York Times was so embarrassing. Janet, I'm going to send you a screenshot if you can find it. Like, basically, let me see if I can find it. The U.S. forces were training the Guinean soldiers who took off to stage a coup. But look at this line. The American military denounced the ouster of the president in West Africa. And they said they had no warning of what their students were planning. Come on.
So we're talking about the most intelligent military community in the world, not knowing what's going on with a bunch of students.
That they were training.
Yes.
At that point.
Exactly like, at that moment.
For me, what's worse is how on earth can the New York Times seriously report this? Like, what is it that, like, how did it make it past all these people?
It was supposed to.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So that's kind of like...
It's been complicit in these type of stories for over a century, so.
Yes. All of them. But for me, I think, I don't know, like, did the, I'm not sure, like, did the Bernie 2016 campaign, like, help you, I guess, understand how bad the press is at all? Like, because I remember the CNN plant one, that was, like, very vivid for me.
No, I had known for a very long time that the news was just a bunch of bullshit. Am I allowed to curse on this show?
Of course.
So a bunch of fucking bullshit. And I had stopped watching all mainstream media a long time ago with any idea that they're telling me the whole truth, the full truth, or even any bit of the truth. And everything that they report on has some sort of spin to make you feel some sort of way that they want you to feel.
Yeah.
So I couldn't pinpoint a date, but it's been a long time. It was long before Bernie.
Okay. So this is actually good because I've been having this idea mull in my mind. So a lot of people look at the Hillary and Bernie campaign. Mm-hmm. And we saw what she did with the strategy. There was the total lies, like utter and total lies. There was also the what do you call it? Well, okay. So let's just go. First one was the oh my God, the Bernie bro smear, because they couldn't actually find any actual dirt on Bernie. So they're like, oh, his supporters are bad, and therefore, by extension, Bernie must be bad. That was the first one I can remember. And then they were trying to then do the, what do you call it? Not Pied Piper. No. Swift voting of Bernie with regards to race, because he had literally marched for MLK when she was a Goldwater girl. Right?
Yeah.
And so what people don't realize is that this is the so if this is the way they act around somebody with less power than them in a political campaign, why on earth would you expect them to act differently when they're in charge of the State Department in relations to, say, Afghanistan, Ukraine, any country? And so, but a lot of people have not been able to make that connection that it wasn't about Bernie, but it's literally about how they interact with power.
So I think their inability to make those connections stems directly from their inability to accept that maybe they were taken advantage of in some way, because, people don't want to admit that they have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, and that's okay to have weaknesses. From our weaknesses, we can grow our strength, right? So the inability of them to come to terms with that they've been taken advantage of or duped is what drives that.
Yeah, like one thing that I find so disgusting of Hillary Clinton is that she once accused Putin of supporting global white nationalism. That's the one thing that you can, that Russians will never, ever, ever do, because 27 million Russians died from World War II. 27 Soviet citizens. Putin's own brother was killed in the siege of Leningrad. So that's literally the one thing he won't do. But guess who's armed Nazis in Ukraine? Her. So that, I remember it was like that. That sounded, that's like that was like literally Swift voting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's deflection. That's, you're projecting what you're doing onto others to take the eyes off of you.
Oh yeah. The whole Putin thing is her feeling guilty or projecting. And
I don't know if she feels guilty. I don't know if she feels.
Okay. So I thought it's because she did the coup in Ukraine that she was paranoid that Putin will want to get revenge.
Maybe paranoia. Yeah.
But not guilt. You're right.
No, definitely not guilt. She's very comfortable in what she does. She definitely is.
Yeah. Isn't she?
Yeah. And that goes back decades.
Oh yeah. The more I see it, the more I'm horrified at all the things she's done. But it's I guess there's another thing that a lot of people don't understand is that the class aspect. So in the Soviet Union, they went after people of the upper class, and that offends people in power, just because they're like, oh, we don't want to give them any ideas if they killed their czar. And so they kind of make it seem extra villainous. So I've been trying to find a way to explain how the US propaganda machine works against actually existing socialist systems. And these were just ideas that were just floating around in my head this morning. But you also said you wanted to talk a little bit about healthcare because you were watching my favorite Star Trek Voyager episode where the doctor gets kidnapped to this hospital in this weird planet and they segregate the patients based on their wealth, right?
Yeah, it was an asteroid.
Okay. Yeah. And then and then the doctor's like, this is unethical. No, I know. There's this serum where on the first floor, it's used to save people's lives, but they don't have enough of it. And then on the third floor, they use
it to make people look younger. Yeah, it's like Botox.
Yeah.
It's like a Botox for them, but it's a Botox that can save lives as well.
In the first floor.
Yep.
Yeah, that to me was like a very powerful episode. And I don't know. I love that episode because it's exactly like everything on planet Earth. Nostalgia.
Yes. And actually Star Trek delves into that topic a couple of times. They did it in Enterprise, I think. No, was it Enterprise or was it DS9? Bashir, I think it was, on DS9 was stuck in a similar situation, if I recall correctly.
The quickening, yeah. There was a planet that the Dominion decided to punish with this like virus where everyone like died a gruesome death for resisting. And then there's this one pregnant lady, but then like Bashir's trying all these treatments and then it's not working on her. But then when the baby's delivered, she dies, but then the baby's born without the virus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do remember that. Yep. Yeah, it was on a planet, right?
In the other side of the wormhole.
Yeah. Yeah, Star Trek does hit on a lot of social topics that relate to today and the strifes multiple that we go through. Do you
remember one episode in the second season of Deep Space Nine where there's like a time warp and they go back into their past, but from 1990s, our future, it's like sometime around like 2020. And they're in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then they're like segregating all these homeless people into these encampments.
I mean, if we want to call them encampments, we can.
Or whatever they were saying, like whatever's going on right now, like that was like each time I think about the year and that episode, I'm like, what's going on? And then Jedzia is in this like with this like
that's irrelevant.
What?
I thought it was 2030 in DS9, but
I thought it was 20. It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter. It's pretty close to today.
Yeah. And then it's in San Francisco. And then Jedzia is like hanging out with these like tech bros in San Francisco and it's like, oh my God, they predicted the future to the dot.
Yeah, they really did. They really did. And I was like, wow, this is exactly where we're headed if we keep going on like this.
But are we already there? Because, okay, let's use this opportunity to mildly bash on Anna Kasparian. So let's watch this clip where she's pretty bad about homeless people.
I do think that there are progressives, I don't know if it's progressive policy, but progressives in places like California who have made terrible decisions. And so one of those terrible decisions is essentially doing away with anti-camping laws, right? Allowing people to camp out wherever they want, whenever they want. And if, like, we have a homeless problem in California, we have it all throughout the country, but it's particularly bad in California. And so the argument is, well, if there isn't public housing available for people, they should be allowed to camp out. Okay, but there's also a problem right now where there is public housing available and individuals will say, no, I don't want to take it. I don't want to follow the rules in the public housing. And so as a result, I would rather camp out. Progressive lawmakers are like, we should allow them to camp out. And you know what happens? Crime happens. Open air drug markets happen. And it's the truth. These are the facts of the matter. In fact, it was addressed in this Daily Beast article, and honestly, it was cathartic to read it because everyone denies that this is happening.
So I think we may already be there.
I think we're definitely at the point where we have segregated neighborhoods 100%, and both by race and by wealth class or lack of wealth class. And it's going to keep going on until we break and enough people are hungry, too hungry, and there will be some pushback. That pushback will most likely be violent.
Well, it'll always be violent.
Yeah.
I mean, the violence, but people always mess up on where the violence starts. Like it's always those without power have a request. So they're like, I want living wage. I want to ride the bus, whatever it is.
And they're never unfair requests.
No, they're just
okay,
like,
I would like to eat today, please.
I don't want to be a slave anymore, whatever. But then the ones in power are the ones to first use the force, and those without power then figure out a way to deflect the force. But then what you hear is always about the deflection as violence as opposed to the original sin of violence. Hold on. Okay, let me just quickly explain what a zemstvo is. It's like back then, Tsarist Russia had gubernias, like they're kind of like states, I believe, and they had a bunch of liberal technocrats form this committee called a zemstvo committee, where they're allegedly supposed to do legislating or whatever, like liberals are supposed to do, governing, I don't know. But Lenin explains why these liberals kind of suck. And Struve is a really interesting character because in 1895, he started out as a Marxist revolutionary. No, back then they called Marxist revolutionary social democrats. And then later he became a cadet, which is a constitutional democrat, which is a lot like Tsarist Russia's Democratic Party. And then by the time like 1917 rolled around, he became a monarchist. And it's really funny to see his like all the signs that you'll see that he will kind of Lenin has a word for this. He calls this liquidationism, where he'll kind of like liquefy himself to be useful for those in power. But it's funny to read through all, like the funny thing is, if you search for every, his name is, I believe, Pyotr Struve. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's funny if you like read, like Lenin kind of tracks it, but I should actually collect all those and put it together in one anthology, because it's very interesting, because it's like a checklist on what you should watch out for your social democratic congressperson.
So should I read now?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. Let's find it. Where are you? Okay. So this is Political Struggle and Political Chicanery.
Yep.
By Lenin.
Yes. It was published in Iskra, which means spark. That was the first. Well, that's the thing where everyone needs to read. Well, we should. With Tina, we read Where to Begin. And that's an excellent place to begin if you want to have a movement. And Lenin talks about the necessity of having a working class press, not the bourgeoisie press, but the most important, like Where to Begin. He's like, we need an all Russia working class newspaper. We also need that in the US. US used to have working class press, but oddly,
it disappeared.
Yeah. And then with that, all our like benefits that we earned, like with unions, everything, those disappeared too.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't imagine how that happened.
I know. Okay. It's like they would like, the big companies would like buy these union presses up and then just
disband them?
Bankrupt. Yeah.
Okay. So I will start reading now.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's not what I want. Lower that. And okay.
By home policy, Lenin means domestic policy. Okay.
Got it. Okay, great. At present, it seems that the home policy of the Russian government can least of all he accuse.
No, B. Sorry, that's a typo. Yeah.
It is a typo. Okay. At present, it seems that the home policy of the Russian government can least of all be accused of insufficient resoluteness and clarity. The fight against the enemy at home is in full swing.
I like how he calls it the enemy at home. The US government also treats most of its population as the enemy at home. Right?
Okay, so we are the enemy at home.
No, but don't you see, like, okay, I mean, like, I don't know if you remember, but Hillary Clinton literally in a WikiLeaks league said that like her enemies were the voters of Wisconsin. I'll find it. Like she literally said that.
Oh yeah, no, I do remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
by the way, the reason I know the typos is I now know enough Russian to kind of. I'm reading his original Russian, and now I know enough to kind of know where the typos are.
got it.
And I feel like okay, got it. Okay.
Hardly ever has there been a time when fortresses, prisons, police stations, and even private homes and apartments temporarily converted into lockups have been so crammed with persons under arrest. Yeah.
Doesn't that sound familiar to you?
Star Trek DS9.
No? America?
Well, yeah, but
that's the thing. Like today, like okay, let's say, I mean, suppose you were to read this and I just delete the word Russian and change it to American with these first two sentences. Actually, how about this? Let's do an experiment. Like, how many sentences can you just like literally change Russian, and have this like be applicable today? Let's count that.
Okay, so let's assume all of them.
No, we don't want to assume.
We don't want to assume? Okay.
No, that's a part of this is like analyzing it and trying to get people to read Lenin because Americans don't value wisdom of elders. So they're like, oh, why would I need to read about some dead white man? And you're like, no, he's 1/4 Mongolian and he's not white because whiteness doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. But then so this is like the entire thing is you and I like analyzing this and explaining how it relates to modern day so that they can make the connection.
Okay. Okay.
So we counted two sentences. Okay.
All right. So there is
a quick question. Can you put up a counter as I can increment? I'll say this for increment. If you can put a counter, that would be really cool. Okay.
I will put a counter.
Okay.
Okay. So that was okay. There is no room for all those who have been seized. It is impossible to send all the exiles to Siberia by the usual means of transportation without equipping extraordinary expeditions. There are neither the forces nor the means for instituting a uniform regime for all prisoners, and the wholly arbitrary behavior of the distraught and tyrannical local authorities especially rouses the indignation of the prisoners and drives them to protest, struggle, and hunger strikes. Well, yeah, we're definitely in the protest and struggle stage,
and the hunger strikes in prison. We've had that too.
Recently. Yes. I was just about to say that. And with some people, hunger strikes. They're definitely the more strong people, in my opinion, to be able to do that. To have food available and to deny it. It's in solidarity with others or even for themselves. Mm-hmm. But it's usually more so in solidarity with others who have been wronged or harmed in some way. Mm-hmm. Okay, hunger strikes. The higher authorities, however, while leaving it to the small fry to deal with the internal enemies already in custody, are zealously continuing their labors to improve and reorganize the police with a view to striking further against the very roots and branches. Oh, wow, look, it's our government giving the military and police more money.
Yep. And literally all these like reforms they're talking about, all of it is the one in Minnesota is hilarious. Like I got into like this argument with somebody and I told him like, yeah, like I literally quoted this thing where Lenin makes fun of lesser evilism. And he's like, when the bourgeoisie do give you reforms, it'll be, what do you call it? Two-faced and untrustworthy. Mm-hmm. And then like I didn't even read it. I just said this and I'm like, told him to read Lenin. And he's like, Lenin's never wrong. I'm like, yep, actually, that's correct. Lenin's never wrong. No, literally, like if you think he's wrong, go find it and bring it to me, the citation. His collected works, volumes 1 through 55. Okay. But then I then later read the law and all they did was rename the police department as the public safety department. So again, a lot of these police. So what people don't realize is why the police exist. According to Adam Smith, the purpose of the police is to protect those with property from those without. So you can't actually reform the police without actually changing the entire state apparatus. But it's gone.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Okay.
It is war.
It is war, pure and simple. And it is not only
Becoming.
and it is not only becoming apparent to ever greater masses of the Russian population, the American population, but is actually being more or less directly felt by them.
Bingo. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Definitely war, as in, like, I mean, look at the equipment that they come for protests. They come like they're, I don't know, like they're like in, even when the Red Army was fighting all the Nazis in Stalingrad, they were not equipped to that. You know what I mean? And this is for a protest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw it last summer with the Black Lives Matter protests, where they would show up with like cans of soup, and the military were showing up, or the military,
Whatever.
domestic military, the police were showing up in military gear, as if the protesters had advanced military weapons that they acquired somewhere else.
Yep.
Right? So,
yes.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they had cans of soup and people were crying over the cops who were protected head to toe, getting hit with a can of soup. Oh, poor you.
Oh my God. Poor cop. Aw.
Poor you.
Poor cop. Okay.
The vanguard of police and gendarmerie.
Yeah. Gendarmerie is a French, like Lenin does this thing. When you look at his notes, it's always like, so I was feeling, like I said, a little sad this week. And a friend of mine told me to like find all the times that Lenin insulted Karl Kautsky and make a little database. And then I was looking at his, like, I was like trying to see, like, and for him, I have to like, were the original languages he wrote his notes in? And it's always in like 4 languages. Like there's in Russian, and then he has some like clarification in German. Sometimes it goes to French and English too. So yeah, he uses a lot of like French war. Like, yeah. So I believe it's a French. Let me just double check. How do you spell it? Genda. Yeah, I am 90% sure it's like the French word for police. Gendarme.
It is a French word for police.
Gendarmerie.
Yeah, gendarmerie. Okay, I did not realize that. Okay. Yep, it's a military force within the law. And oh my God, I did not even. Okay, this is a term we should all learn. Okay, let me send it. Oh my God, I did not even know that. This term.
I pulled it up also. A member of the body of soldiers, especially in France, serving as an armed police force for the maintenance of public order. Now, define public order.
It says a military force with law enforcement duties among the civilian population. Wow, I did not realize there was such a specific word for the militarized police that was invented in like 17th century France.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Okay, now I'm going to use this all the time. So
I like etymology.
Gendarmerie.
Gendarmerie.
Gendarmerie. Okay, did you take French?
No, I studied voice, so you have to study different enunciations of languages, such as French, German, Italian, English.
Okay.
So the vanguard of police and gendarmerie flying squads are slowly but surely followed by the heavy artillery of the law.
I like that, heavy artillery of the law.
Take the laws of the preceding month, and the first things to strike you are the new ukases.
Yeah, okay, I don't know what that is, but
let me. The last vestiges of Finland's liberties.
Oh yeah, Finland didn't really exist until the British and Americans armed this total psycho. And yeah. Okay. And Ukazi is an edict of the Tsarist government. It is an arbitrary command. Yeah. A proclamation by the Russian emperor having the force of law.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll start from, and the first things to strike you are the new ukases, which destroy the last vestiges of Finland's liberty.
Oh, no, okay. Actually, okay.
You're Googling it.
No. I'm asking my Russian teacher to pronounce it properly for me.
Указ.
And in addition, perhaps the extensive law on mutual aid societies for the nobility. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first of these measures completely undermines the independence of the Finnish courts and Senate, making it possible for the Governor General to know everything, to control everything, i.e., actually converting Finland into one of those numerous Russian provinces which enjoy no rights and are abased. From now on, remarks Finlandeska Gazeta.
Oh yeah, that means Finland's Gazette. Like literally, Skaya means it's like yeah, it literally means Finland's Gazette.
Okay. The police-controlled government newspaper. There is hope for the harmonious activity of all local institutions. I am at a loss to say whether this is a malicious sneer at an unarmed foe who has been dealt a most foul and deliberate blow, or unctuous twaddle in the spirit of Judas Golovyov.
Yeah. Okay, I'll explain who. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Read the sentence.
You want me to read it over again?
Yes, please.
Okay. I am at a loss to say whether this is a malicious sneer at an unarmed foe who has been dealt a most foul and deliberate blow, or I can't say that word. Unctuous or unctuous twaddle in the spirit of Judas Golovyov.
Okay, so there was Lenin's referenced this author again before. His name is Shedrin, and he had a really interesting literature piece called the Galyalov family, and so his nickname was Judas because he was kind of two-faced, but he was a slave owner. But then he was also really sanctimonious about it, despite being a slave owner, and all about this like morality. And so that's what Lenin's referring to.
Okay. The second of the laws mentioned above is the latest offspring of the same Select Committee for Affairs of the Nobility. Select Committee for Affairs.
Yeah. Okay. So this was before they had the 1905 reforms. So this was where all the rich like all the like inbred rich jackasses who are related to the Tsar would meet, and you'll see what they do.
Which has already blessed the fatherland with the looting of Siberian lands. In parentheses, the imposition of landed proprietorship in Siberia.
Mm-hmm.
At a time of severe commercial and industrial crisis and complete impoverishment in the countryside, when millions of workers and peasants are prey to hunger, malnutrition, and distress, it is of course impossible even to imagine a better way of using the people's money than for handouts to the unfortunate landed gentry. All those unfortunate landed.
This is like exactly like the bailouts for the bankers. So they're literally giving these new lands in Siberia to people related, inbred jackasses related to the Tsar. And that's why Lenin's like, oh, those, instead of like he's like, oh, those unfortunate landed gentry. Like that's
he's being so facetious right there.
Yeah.
Oh, so facetious. He's like, oh, those poor people. I feel so bad for you.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So where was I?
First,
the government will grant each mutual aid society for the nobility of a certain lump sum, in parentheses, at the discretion of His Majesty the Emperor. And secondly, over a period of 10 years, it will grant them as much again as members of the local nobility will themselves contribute. Let me redigest that.
Okay. So first they will, okay. So the mutual aid society is also sarcasm, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So what'll happen is that Siberia is humongous, has a lot of oil, has a lot of like riches, mines, lots of like lots and lots and lots of like wealth. So, and it's very big, humongous. So the thing is that it's a 10-year plan. So the first, like at the beginning, the emperor will grant like these inbred jackasses just a certain lump sum of land in Siberia. Like, oh, you own this square, you own this square. And then over a, but remember, there's like the czar's closest relatives are the super nobility, I guess. But then there's like a one level lower nobility that are probably, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like you have it's like
it's a tier system.
Yeah. So the local gentry will apparently like get land, but then the czar is going to get a matching scheme so that these nobility get like equivalent of what the equivalent. You see what I mean?
Yeah. The societies will assist those who have difficulty in paying interest on loans.
These are relatives of these are nobility, just so we know. Like the billionaires are getting help.
The societies are whom in this conversation?
What Lenin calls mutual aid. These, like, I guess they're like some sort of corporate entity. Like Lenin, like nicknames them the mutual aid societies. Obviously, he's making fun of that.
All right. So it's just a money laundering scheme.
Yeah.
The gentlemen of the nobility need have no compunction about accepting loans when they have been shown such an easy way of getting money for payments from the pockets of the people.
I like that. Payments from the pockets of the people.
A little alliteration there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but okay, wait, this is a translation. So let me just check what he says originally. No, I'll check that later afterwards. It's not necessary.
So basically they take money from us, whether it's through taxes or through our donations that are voluntary donations, and then give it to the people who don't really need it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me just move myself here. Okay. And as if deliberately to sum up this policy of persecution, violence, and plunder, to generalize and consecrate it, there came the Tsar's address to the nobility, zemstvoists, peasants, and workers in Kursk and St. Petersburg. The Tsar thanked the nobility for the service it had rendered him, service dictated by conscience rather than fear, and promised to display ceaseless concern in the promotion of landed proprietorship, which constitutes the age-old pillar of law and of the moral strength of Russia. That's a lot to take in. Okay, just give me a second to read this again to myself.
Of course. Sorry. I read this last night, so I laughed back then and I laugh again because, nothing's changed.
No, and I know this. It's been this way for centuries. What we now call capitalism has always existed in some form. There's always been some sort of money trade or value given to people based on how much they've acquired of something. And it's never, the value is never based on the services that they perform to the community and society as a whole. Okay, to generalize and consecrate. There came the Tsar's address to the nobility. What are zemstvoists?
Oh, okay, so like I said, in Russia back then, they had gubernias, which were there's a federal Russian government back then. And then each state, and it was divided into gubernias, which is like states. They had these committees called the zemstvos. I believe it comes from the Russian word for earth, which is zemla. So they are like technocrats and liberals who are allegedly supposed to, legislate or like take care or whatever liberals are supposed to do.
I'm sorry, it's just so funny.
Why?
Whatever liberals are supposed to do.
Yeah, I don't know what they do like when they're in like these legislative. What do they do? Like whatever that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like what? Okay. Okay. So, by the way, it does not alliterate in Russian, actually, and I'm going to have my Russian teacher pronounce this too. Uh,
The Tsar thanked the nobility for the service it had rendered him, service dictated by conscience rather than fear, and promised to display ceaseless concern in the promotion of land. Okay, so you voluntarily love me, and I will give you more land.
well, no, service is rendered. So what they're doing is they are. Well, look at how he talks about the enemy at home. The enemy at home. So it's because, and service. So a lot of them had basically death squads, for lack of a better, like slavery is not easy to maintain because no one wants to be a slave. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them had death squads. No, I mean literally, there was the Black Hundreds and things like that, and they would use that to they were his mercenaries. Oh, that's what. Yeah, the services rendered are for the nobility was, of course, they were his mercenaries who would go. So that's what the Tsar is thanking them for.
Oh, so okay.
So, yeah, I mean, they had the reason why, yeah.
Okay, I'm just reading this differently. I'm reading it as the Tsar thanked the nobility for their services it had rendered him. So yeah. I mean, maybe I'm not reading it differently.
No, exactly. He thanks the nobility for this, and the services are basically
them. The landed proprietorship. That would be. I mean, land was more of a asset back then than necessarily. I mean, cash really.
Well, I mean, the way land worked in Tsarist Russia was that, in America, you know how the slaves moved around? Mm-hmm. The slaves came with the land in Tsarist Russia, and that's the main difference with feudalism versus slavery. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you got land, you inherited all the slaves in that land too, literally in your title. I mean, not now, but long story. For all purposes, yes. We'll talk about the formal abolishment of serfdom and what happened later. But for all practical purposes, it's a distinction without a difference.
Okay. So to the Zemstvos, I know I'm saying that wrong. To the Zemstvos, the Tsar said nothing at all either about a pillar or about the moral strength of Russia, or about service dictated by conscience rather than fear. He told them briefly and plainly that their mission is to organize local efforts in the sphere of economic requirements, and that only if they bore this in mind, only if they discharged this mission successfully, could they be assured of his graciousness. Okay.
So see, with them, he thanked the nobility for the service, but with the Zemstvos, who are technocrats, liberals, and okay. So also, just so you know, because the ukaz exists, that means literally there's no limits on the Tsar's power. So constitutionalists back then meant people who kind of wanted a constitution that would limit something. But, and a lot of people thought in England, they kind of got the king to kind of agree to a Magna Carta type of thing. So there have been certain restrictions through constitutional monarchies. And a lot of people thought they could get the Tsar to do that. And Lenin's no. So here.
That's like saying, pretty please, Mr. President.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it. Okay. This was an absolutely definite answer to the constitutional yearnings of the Zemstvos, a direct warning, or to be more exact, challenge to them, a threat to withhold his graciousness in the event of the slightest transgression on their part beyond the bounds of local efforts in the sphere of economic requirements. By the way, what are the local efforts in the sphere of economic requirements? What does that translate to for then?
Honestly, it actually translated to absolutely nothing because they're liberals. But what the problem was that 80% of the population was essentially in debt bondage. They had to like basically give corvée labor to the nobility. And then the nobility, like they'd have to like work as slaves. And then every few years they'd have if the crops failed, they'd just become homeless and they die, and millions, thousands and thousands died, and they couldn't go to school because they were slaves. There was no schools to go to. They didn't have any medical care. The life expectancy, was 32, as in 50% of the people in Russia back then died before. Is that what life expectancy is? I don't know. Wait, whatever. It was 32. That's
32 years. Life expectancy is, I believe, it's the average of how people live. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how so a lot of people, and because the Tsar they were just slaves, worked to death. With nothing. It was a horrible life. And so there was a lot of economic requirements, but of course, that's not what the Tsar meant. The Tsar meant to uphold this system and do a little.
Okay. So we're up to the next paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Further, to the peasants, the Tsar openly expressed censure for the disturbances and the plunder of estates. Would that be protests?
Disturbances is protests, plunder of estates.
Is eating the rich and redistributing their wealth?
No. This is still 1902. Probably the peasants were like, no, we don't want to work. I know, it's probably like there's. Like I said, in American history, they don't go through this, but you should read Counter-Revolution of 1776. There was a famine. I believe I can't remember if it's 1901 or 1902 that had a famine, but they probably had a famine, and they probably were like, okay, you guys are hoarding grain, like in your warehouse, give us some food or something like that. And that was they probably raided a warehouse full of rice or wheat or whatever. And these constantly happen, of course. Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, that's exactly what happened. Okay.
Okay. No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Muzik is like a poor country, like a slave, basically. Okay.
So I'll just start from the beginning. Further, to the peasants, the Tsar openly expressed censure for the disturbances and the plunder of estates, describing as merited punishment the brutal beating and torture of the muziks who had risen in hunger and desperation, and recalling the words of Alexander III, who had enjoined them to obey the marshals of the nobility.
Yep.
Lastly.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is very interesting. By the way, the way they dealt with the peasants were horrendous. And Alexander III is the Tsar's dad. The funniest thing is that 2 years before the Tsar's dad died, somebody suggested, hey, Nikolai needs to. He's like, hey, why don't you give Nikolai the railroad, the portfolio to construct the railroads in Russia? And his dad laughed and he's like, no, Nick can't handle that. He's too and this was 2 years before he became Tsar. His own dad was like, no, he can't handle it. He's too incompetent. His own inbred father. So just to show you how much.
His own father didn't like him, and yet he wound up in power anyway.
No. His father loved him, but the thing is that he knew that he was really sucked. His father thought he was too incompetent to even handle the railroad. So I just wanted to explain how dysfunctional the Tsar would be.
Okay. Lastly, to the workers.
Okay, by workers. So in around this time, there were just a few factories because capitalism was still early. So by workers, he means urban wage workers who work in factory. And that's about maybe 2 million. While the peasants are by peasants, he means mostly rural, he means they're about 100 million. So just so you know.
Okay. So it's the, correct me if I'm wrong, the proletariat and
yeah, exactly. The ones who are wage workers who are not enslaved in. Yeah.
Yeah. Are the workers are wage workers too, right? They're wage employees also, but they're a little bit better off than.
No, they're not a little bit better off. They're at least not enslaved, but no. There's a really good play called from Maxim Gorky. I can't remember the lower, like it's really horrendous. Like they keep dying of cholera because the water is gross. Like, yeah, no, they're not. It's just they're oppressed slightly differently. Like, if you're in rural Russia, you're far away from people, so you're not like always dying of cholera, but you're still a slave. So it's kind of like yeah.
Got it. Okay. Lastly, to the workers, the Tsar spoke neither more or less than about enemies, his enemies, who should also be the enemies of the workers. Little propaganda there to get the people fighting each other. Yep. All righty. Okay. And so the noblemen are the faithful servants of the age-old pillar of law and order. The Zemstvoist or Zemstvo nobleman.
He's just like making a joke there. He's like the liberal nobility.
Yes, get a warning. The peasants too are censored and are commanded to obey the nobleman. Censured.
Yeah.
The peasants too are censured and are commanded to obey the nobleman. The workers are faced squarely with the question of enemies. Who do I fight? Who's against me? Who do I align with? Instructive speeches. It is instructive to compare them, and it would be most desirable to acquaint as many people as possible, both with the exact text and the real meaning of these speeches. Though the medium of proclamations. True. I'm sorry, you're right. Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Through the medium of proclamations, leaflets, and talks in study circles and at meetings.
One clarification.
Oh,
Study circles were actually places where people went to learn how to read because they couldn't go to school. And a lot of times, like these peasants would pay, like sometimes, like if their kids could go to school, like they'd pay like their kid, like 8-year-old kid, to like come and read like 50 kopecks, like 5 kopecks or something, to come over during lunch break and read to them while they were working in the farms. That's because, study circles are places where they literally went to learn how to read. And then they first learned how to read by reading Marx and then like Lenin. So anyone who says it's complicated is lying, because literally they learned how to read on this. Okay.
Where was I? Okay. Simple explanatory notes to the text of these speeches would serve as splendid material for agitation among the most unenlightened part of the most backward sections of the working class, the small traders and manufacturers and the peasantry.
Mm-hmm.
So to get them roused.
Yeah.
And angry.
And it'll like teach them like what exactly is the system, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why reading is dangerous.
Yeah. And that's why it's have you seen that tweet? Like some guy was like,
I was just thinking about that tweet. I know exactly what tweet you're talking about.
Okay,
my grandmother or grandfather read Marx or whatever it was and became a communist, and that's why reading is bad. What? Is that the tweet you were thinking of?
Yeah, that's exactly what. Can you? Okay, I know. Janet, can you just like find the grandfather read communism or literacy? Like there's a really funny tweet where his like grandfather was like, my grandfather's never learned how to read, so he stayed anti-communist. Like, yeah, exactly. That's why reading is a communist conspiracy.
But reading, if you become a capitalist, is okay.
Well, no, you won't.
Reading, if you become anything but a fascist, is bad. Yeah, that's pretty much what that guy said in that tweet. I was reading that and I'm like, oh my God, it's that tweet.
Okay.
And not only the ignorant, but also many an enlightened and an educated Russian citizen would also benefit by careful pondering over the Tsar's speeches, especially from among the liberals in general and among the Zemstvoists in particular.
This is exactly true. Yeah. Like a lot of people are uneducated, but they kind of get things. Like I noticed, like when I was like canvassing for Bernie in rural South Carolina, like you might, I hate this term. I really loathe this term, but what liberals would consider I hate this. I don't even want to say it. Oh, okay.
Keyword?
No, white.
Deplorables?
No, the white T word. I hate the way they're not. I mean, that's disgusting what liberals do. Okay.
Yes, I know.
Rural, poor white people. Like, so, I mean, they're not educated and they're incredible. Like, they're as like poor as dirt, but like they get kind of some things. And these educated liberals come in with like what I call nuanced cuckery. So this is exactly what Len is talking about. Like, not only the ignorant should read this, but the enlightened people especially should read it. Yeah.
And read it with a different ear. Because when they're hearing,
yeah, exactly. Read it
when they're originally hearing it, they're like, oh yeah. And then, but if you start reading it and dissecting it and what he's actually implicating, it's completely different than what he wants you to think he's saying.
Yes, exactly.
It's like our government today tells you one thing and it's for your own good.
Access to healthcare is, I do not support Medicare for all. Like, we know that.
100%. And when people start switching their language to access as opposed to deserving of,
Right.
you know, it's a huge red flag. It's
Exactly.
telling me that you're tiptoeing around the issue because you don't want people to. I call them weasel words.
Yeah, I love that idea. Weasel word.
It's a weasel word. It's a weasel word.
Okay.
Okay. So it is not often that one hears from the lips of royalty such an explicit avowal, confirmation, and declaration of war at home. War of the various classes of the population, war against domestic enemies.
Yep.
And an open avowal of war is an excellent remedy against all and sundry forms of political chicanery, i.e., attempts to gloss over, evade, and hush up the war, or attempts to constrict and dwarf its nature.
This is what I love about Lenin, is that he writes for people who barely know how to read. So whenever he uses a term, like, he immediately defines it. Like, so he's like, political chicanery. So what is political chicanery? I just know this, attempts to gloss over, evade, hush up the war against the people, or attempts to constrict or dwarfs its nature. Like, and yeah, everything on MSNBC is political chicanery. Right?
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, you know me better than that. Yeah. Of course, I agree with you on that point.
Let's go. I was just giving people an example of what political chicanery was. Okay. I did not know what this word meant. So now I just learned it. And then I'm trying to relate it to modern day political chicanery. It's something they've heard before.
History repeats itself because we forget what happened in the past, or we think somehow using the same methods will result in a different outcome.
Yep.
The political chicanery to which we refer is exhibited both by the government and the peaceful opposition, and occasionally even by the revolutionaries, although it is true that in the case of the latter, it assumes a special form which does not resemble the former. Okay. On the part of the government, it is deliberate enticement, bribery, and corruption. In short, a system that has come to be known as Zubatovism. Yeah,
Zubatov was the head of the czarist version of the FBI, the Okhrana. And so Zubatovism is basically just like spying on your citizens, just like doing really, being a
neo-McCarthyist.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's a special form. Hold on. Let me just read what it is. Zubatovism is, it was aimed at diverting the masses from the political struggle against monarchical power to convert the movement to only making. So Zubatovism is a kind of struggle with Tsarism in the years 1901 to 1903. The trigger was, oddly enough, the chief of the security department of the city of Moscow, S.V. Zubatov, who supported the authorities. In addition, Zubatovism is a provocative attempt by the government of Tsarist Russia to distract people from the revolutionary struggle against the autocratic policy. The people tried to drag in an artificial the Zubotovs tried to drag in artificial monarchist workers organization. And yeah, so basically it's like AFL-CIAA kind of unions, I guess. Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
Promises of more or less extensive reforms, actual readiness to carry out the tiniest fraction of what has been promised, and a demand to refrain from political struggle in return for this. Such is the essence of Zubotovism.
Oh my God, this is like exactly what the Democratic Party is like. They promised like, what did Joe Biden, I forgot, whatever he promised. Like,
He promised a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. The 14, okay. And then the actual readiness to carry out the tiniest fraction of what has been promised is also completely missing. And it always does come in the demand to refrain from political struggle in exchange for this like little morsel. Like this is like literally the Democratic Party for however long. Like
I know I promised you a whole loaf of bread.
Yeah.
Everybody a whole loaf of bread, but
the Republicans won't let us.
All I can, yes, that's exactly what I was getting at. All I can give you is this sliver of a slice, because even though we have the majority of power, Republicans won't let us. Yeah.
Jenna, can you please like play my Russian teacher's thing about the pockets? Because I don't think it alliterates in Russian.
Касса будет помогать тем, кто затрудняется платить проценты по долгам. Господа дворяне могут без стеснений делать займы, когда указан такой легкий путь брать на уплату деньги из народного кармана.
Okay. See, народного кармана is people's pocket, so it actually does not alliterate in Russian. Oh yeah, literacy is always the most basic tool of totalitarian propaganda.
Yeah. So they want us to be able to understand them, but not the words that they say.
No. I saw that tweet. That's so funny.
Where was I? All right here. You ready for me to move on?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Now even some of the Zemstvoists, I still can't say that word.
Zemstvoists. It just says, yeah, Zemstvoists.
Zemstvoists.
No, Zemstvo.
Zemstvoists. Zemstvoists.
Yeah.
All right. Now, even some of the Zemstvoists already see that he parlays between Mr. Plev, Minister of the Interior, and Mr. DM Shipov, chairman of the Moscow Zemstvo board, constitute the beginning of Zemstvo Zubotovism. Plev promises to deal more favorably with the Zemstvo. I can't say that.
Oh no, that's just he's like citing the journal.
Got it.
She got this information. So Asvobozdenia means like for freedom, or like, yeah, it's a really obnoxious name for a journal, but that's it.
Zoya's going to watch this and she's going to laugh at me pronouncing these Russian words.
Who?
You don't know Zoya?
Do I know? Maybe I know Zoya. Maybe I don't.
You should definitely meet Zoya.
Okay.
Plev promises to deal more favorably with the Zemstov, promises to convene a conference of chairmen of Zemsto boards early next year for settling all questions concerning the function of Zemstvo institutions, demanding in return that the Zemstvoists say nothing about representation in the higher government bodies.
Yeah. So he's promising them a conference. Oh, no, a meeting. No, what is it? A conference. If you don't like talk about like having a government, like a representative government, like something like a Congress, we'll have like a Zemstvo conference where we can talk. But yeah, so that's a Zubotovism he's explaining.
Okay.
The thing that the Zemstvoists won't do, or should refrain from, is saying, oh, we need a representative Congress. In exchange, Plev will have a meeting with them next year. But what the Zemstvoists want is a constitution. So it's like, you'll get a meeting if you are good. But where we will talk about affordable access to universal constitutions. You know what I mean?
So yes, you can have a meeting with Senator so-and-so, but you must discuss this and only this.
Well, I mean, not even that. It's like, we will have like, okay, so what the Zemstvos want is that this is because Ukazis are still alive. It means the Tsar has absolute power to do whatever the bleep he wants. So the Zemstvoists are liberals who are like, can we have like a constitution that kind of limits your power so that you can't, like, I don't know, screw with our wives if you like literally. And the Tsar's like, yes, affordable access to having a draft of a constitution. And for that, we'll kind of set up a meeting next year. If you see what I mean? Exactly what Pelosi always does.
Fuck Pelosi.
Yeah, I know.
It would appear that the matter is as clear as can be. The promise is most indefinite, while the demand is such that, if it is complied with, the Zemstvoists' yearnings cannot be realized.
Bingo.
Got
The
it.
promise is yes, but the demand is yes. That's always what they do. Oh my God. That's why they're like, if you refrain from voting for Jill Stein, you're going to get help. The promise is you're going to get affordable access to healthcare, and they'll blame I still think we need to blame Dick Van Dyke just as much as we blame Susan Sarandon, because he's definitely a Bernie bro. But I don't know why they don't blame Dick Van Dyke.
We know why they don't blame Dick Van Dyke or Danny DeVito.
The really funny thing is, I'll see if I can put this clip, but Dick Van Dyke is like 90. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Pete Buttigieg's bros or whatever, his fans made this like really cringeworthy dance. But then in a Bernie rally, Dick Van Dyke danced, and his dance was like so cool. It's like, whoa, this 90-year-old Bernie bro is like hip and got it. But these like Pete Buttigieg people were like, cringe when they were kind of young. Ugh. Okay.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Buttigieg people.
Yeah. He's also cringe in the worst way. But okay, let's continue.
Yeah. Against this political deceit, trickery, and corruption, there is only one remedy: merciless exposure of the tricksters and a resolute political, i.e., in Russian conditions, revolutionary struggle against the police autocracy.
Oh yeah. The cool thing is so the cool thing is that in Russian it actually doesn't matter because like the words are different. So the commas are completely arbitrary, I think. Okay. Yeah, I recognize it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna let you read it.
Okay. No. It's actually, I'm just going to. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll just get him to do this one too.
You're gonna punch him in at that word.
Yeah.
Judging by Asva Bozdedenya, sorry.
It doesn't matter.
Our Zemstvos, however, are not yet equal to this task. Okay, they're not ready. They reply to political chicanery in kind, and their mouthpiece betrays other. They reply to political chicanery in kind, and their mouthpiece betrays utter instability. All right. So if you actually listen to them, they're just telling you, yeah, whatever. In number 7 of Asva Bozidenya, this instability is particularly glaring owing to the fact that opinions on the question at issue are voiced not only by the editors, but also by several contributors with whom the editors more or less disagree. Let me read that again. Instability is particularly glaring owing to the fact that opinions on the question at issue are voiced only by the editors.
Not only, okay, hold on. Let me retranslate this. This is like really stupid. Vavrimia? Okay, hold on.
Is this the right one?
Освобождению. Yeah. Okay, so can you read this sentence again and I'll retranslate it?
Okay. In number 7 of Osvobozdenia, the instability is particularly glaring owing to the fact that opinions on the question at issue are voiced not only by the editors, but also by several contributors with whom the editors more or less disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
okay,
trying to understand that.
No. I know exactly what's wrong. Okay. Hold on. Let me just retranslate this. Just 1 second.
It's just a weird translation of what he was saying.
No. It's always happens because in Russia, the word order literally does not matter because they have some like noun tenses, noun declension, whatever. I don't know what it's called. Let's see. Okay. In the number 7, you see etu. Okay. Etu, what he says, nestaichivos. Thanks to the fact that hold on 1 second. Just give me 1 more second. Hold on. Okay. Okay, sorry. I just lost my place. Hold on. Okay, you see. Okay. There can be only one remedy against political deception, trickery, and debauchery. A ruthless exposure of the tricksters and a resolute political struggle with the police autocracy system. As far as one can judge from the journal Osvoboden, whatever that, please insert that word. Our zemstvos are not up to this task. Their response to politicking is with more politicking, and their organ is totally unstable. Example, in the number 7 of this journal, you see this instability especially clearly, thanks to the fact that not only the editorial board more or less disagrees with this issue, but some staff disagree with the editorial board on this issue. So you see unstable politicking in this journal. So he's saying that the liberals respond to the czarist officials politicking with political chicanery with more and that's exactly what they do with Trump. Oh my God, they always made the Trump look like a brave truth teller by denying absolute reality. I'm trying to figure out there's so many examples. Which one? I can't even. Oh yeah, the Joe Biden going senile. It's obvious that he was senile. That was and the liberals were no, that's and then when Trump's Joe, Sleepy Joe, senile, whatever, they made him look like a brave truth teller because they're denying that. So that's kind of the phenomenon he's talking about.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So what happens is that, the translate this, one day I want to speak Russian well enough to retranslate this properly because, they kind of, word order doesn't matter and they kind of don't. Yeah. And so what happens is that you have to know the genitive case or the dative case or whatever to see who's the object, who's the subject, what he's talking about. So in Russian, it makes perfect sense because he explained the editorial in the same sentence. It makes sense because he used the accusative case and a genitive, I just know that he was referring to the editorial board because it just made sense. That's all. Okay, let's continue.
Right.
Okay.
In the editorial, the view that plebs' promises are a trap, an expression of Zubatovism, is given only as the opinion of a few Zemtovists.
Yep.
Right next to this, we are given the opinion of other Zemtovists, I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Who are inclined to follow the minister's instructions. with a bunch of exclamation points.
Yeah, because he's outraged. He's like, oh, what the blade? Like, who are willing to, like, yeah.
In the editorial, the view that Plev's promises are a trap and the expression is only.
So basically they have some editorial. Yeah.
I got it. They're minimizing what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying it's only a few people, when in reality it's not just a few.
It's reality. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The editors are far from the idea of launching a campaign against Zemstvo Zubatovism.
Yep. Okay. So he says launching. Yeah. Are far from thinking about even in. It sounds like he's saying even thinking about launching a campaign against Zemstvo Zubatovism.
They have cautioned the Zemtovists.
Yep.
They have cautioned the Zemtovists against concession to the government in numbers 5 and 6, but they do not come out with a resolute condemnation of Mr. Shipov and co., who have heeded the advice of the old police fox and deleted from the agenda of the spring Congress of the Zemstvo Point 4, which dealt with the necessity of supplementing the select committee on the needs of the agricultural industry with elected Zemstvo representatives.
Yep.
Okay, so the fox in
Zubatov.
Yeah, the fox is a sneaky, sly character in folktale.
Yep.
For those who may not have known that.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I? The conclusion drawn by the editors in their leading article is not that the Zemstvo is degraded.
No. Actually, okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to change this one. I'm going to say, he said, the editorial board does not conclude in the leading article that the Zemstvo is humiliated by the consent of some of the Zemstvoists to the mean baits of the police.
Did you just redefine that? Or
No. He says degraded, but I think humiliated is more apt, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Conclusion drawn by the editors in their leading article is not that Zemstvo is degraded because part of the Zemstvoists have fallen for the police's vile bait, but because the very fact of negotiations between the government and Zemstvo proves that Zemstvo is now already a representative body. Exclamation points.
Yeah, because he thinks this is like oh my God, can you believe this? This is ridiculous kind of thing.
And that the Congress promised by Mr. Plev. Congress promised by Mr. Plev. It seems to me Mr. Plev spoke only about a conference.
Meeting or conference. Yep.
Is desirable in any case, since it cannot but clear up the relations between the Zemstvo and the government. Yeah. So we're looking at, again,
liberals being
so the Democrats pretend that they're against the Republicans, but in reality, they are working with them.
Yep.
All right. The editors are firmly convinced that the Zemstvoists will behave at the Congress as befits them, as representatives of the people and not as assistants to the ministers of the economic sphere.
Well, but Lenin, he uses.
Is this more Lenin sarcasm?
Everything's Lenin sarcasm. Hold on. He calls it like the way I read it. He says the ministers' handmaidens.
Oh, snap!
What does this translation say?
Wait, I'm looking for. The editors are firmly convinced that the Zemstvoists will behave at the Congress as befits them, as representatives of the people and not as assistants to the ministers of the economic sphere.
I think handmaiden sounds even better.
Okay. If one judges solely by the leading article, one must, on the contrary, be firmly convinced that the Zemstvoists will again act as assist ants.
Oh, no. Hold on. No. Let's just,
funny.
I'm just going to, hold on. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure.
The way that word is broken up is kind of funny because they assist, but they're tiny.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay. Okay, this time he says assistant. Yeah, this actually, yeah, but yeah, he called them assistants now.
Okay. Yeah. The way it's broken up is very funny. Ants of the police authorities, as Misters Shipov and Co. have done until another Zemstro trend thrusts them aside or refashions them. So even they're not safe and secure. They can be replaced at any moment when they stop contributing to the betterment of society. Society. Okay. A welcome relief. Well, actually, you know what? That kind of, just to go back to that, if you look at the way they went after Cuomo, and it was
he was
good.
like a sacrificial lamb, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way I'm reading this. That he either killed somebody's grandma, and I'm being very serious. He either killed somebody's grandma in the whole.
Oh no, there's a lot more dirt.
There's a lot more going on, but he did something to somebody along the line that pissed somebody off, somebody more powerful than him. And he's got a lot of power in New York. So somebody more powerful than him behind the scenes, he pissed off, and they were like, well, now you're done. You're done. It's over. And I'm sure he'll get some sweet gig somewhere, though. Making lots of money. A welcome relief from the political chicanery in this leading article is offered by further articles from contributors. Mr. Anton Stariskis, and even more so the article of the Zemstvo counselor, Mr. T. Mr. T? Who is Mr. T? Do you know?
Stroop.
Who? I'm sorry.
Stroop.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Mr. T is no. Mr. T is not Struve. I'm sorry. It's somebody we don't know and that Lenin wants to keep their identity secret.
Got it. Okay. So
and we'll never know.
Anonymous. He's anonymous.
Yeah.
With Mr. T. The former calls the action of Mr. Shipov and Co. a false step, advises the Zemstoists not to be hasty in thinking that some sort of Congress arranged by Mr. Plev will confirm them in their birthright, advises them not to fall for the bait and refrain from political chicanery.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So Mr. Shipov is telling them, or telling people, not to necessarily think that the Zemstoists will be successful in forming the Congress. Okay. Don't fall for the bait, refrain from the chicanery. Okay. The editor's comment. On the whole, we agree with the author of this article, evidently in the opinion that, in particular, political chicanery should be condemned so one-sidedly.
Yep.
The second contributor, however, openly rebels against the entire stand of long Russian word I can't pronounce.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I just lost my space. Hold on. I'm getting so, hold on. Where is...
It's that long...
okay. Освобождению.
Освобождение.
Yeah.
Okay. The second contributor, however, openly rebels against the entire stand of Osvobozhdenie, attacking its incompleteness and irresolution, condemning such false language as, for instance, references to the people's anarchy, declaring that it is impossible to rest content with half measures, that it is necessary to decide to go on the very end, and that it is necessary to have done with the servile half measures of the legal opposition, stopping at no sacrifice, that unless we become revolutionaries, we, Zemstoists, will be unable to contribute anything substantial to the cause of the political emancipation of Russia. So it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. But I mean, they're right in that unless we become a revolution, we can't contribute to the political emancipation. That's it. That is true.
Yeah. Okay. From the bottom of our hearts, we welcome these honest and firm statements by the Zemstvo counselor and earnestly advise everyone who takes an interest in the problem under examination to make a study of them. He fully confirms the appraisal of the Osvobozdenia program given to us in Iskra. More than that, his article shows not only the correctness of our point of view, but also the expediency of our sharp exposure of the half-heartedness of liberalism.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just taking it in. It appears that among the Zemstvoists themselves, there are people who are repelled by shilly-shallying of any sort, and whom we must make special efforts to support by ruthlessly criticizing such shilly-shallying from our standpoint.
Yep.
So this fence, it's shilly-shallying. It's the way we translate today is like fence sitting.
Or flip-flopping.
Flip-flopping, fence sitting, flip-flopping, it all would, yeah. Okay. The editor of Osvobozdenia, of course, does not agree with so Counselor T and respectfully but firmly declares, we see many things in a different light, to say the least. And what then are the objections of the editors? They boil down to two main points. Firstly, Mr. Struve prefers peaceful paths on principle. I get that you want to protest, but do you have to be so violent?
Yeah.
Okay, violence on a wall with graffiti on it, not happening. You can't be violent against a fence, okay?
Yeah.
In contrast, as he believes, to some revolutionaries, right? Okay.
So he wants to go to a peaceful path to emancipation in Russia, unlike some revolutionaries like that. Lenin dude.
Yes. We can't get there with being violent.
But Lenin dude has a statue of him in every country in the world. We don't know who Struve is.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Secondly, he accuses the latter of insufficient tolerance
Towards liberals. That is very good. We should have zero tolerance. Like, I think more of us need to develop extra insufficient tolerance toward liberals shilly-shallying.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think not enough of us are pissed off enough about it.
Mm-hmm.
So let us examine these objections. In the article headed, apropos of a reproach, Mr. Struve quotes my article in number 2.
No. I like the one where he points out the article is over his signature. Like, he took special time to sign his article.
Okay. In the article headed, apropos of a reproach, Mr. Struve, and in parentheses, the article is over his signature, quotes my article in number 2 through Z of Zarya, the persecutors of Zemstro and the Hannibals of liberalism. What displeased him particularly, of course, were the words, if for once at least the people taught the government a good lesson, it would be of enormous historical significance. See present edition, volume 5. You see, Mr. Struve decidedly and categorically disagrees that violent revolution is preferable to peaceful reform. The most resolute Russian revolutionaries, he says, preferred the peaceful path on principle, and no doctrines whatever can stifle this glorious tradition.
By the way, in 1917, Struve becomes a monarchist, just so we know. This is till 1902.
Nice. Well, was it peaceful? Was it a peaceful transition?
Oh, no. It was a world war.
1917, World War, or the Great War back then.
Yes.
And he becomes a monarch. So the man who deemed peaceful revolution as the only acceptable means of government reform becomes a monarch due to violence.
Allegedly, even though the monarch started the world wars. I mean, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. All right.
So this is really funny because you'll see his evolution.
It is difficult to conceive of anything more fallacious than this argument. Does Mr. Struve really fail to understand that a slave who has risen in revolt is morally entitled to speak about the preferability of peace with the slave owner, whereas a slave who renounces rebellion sinks into shame, hypocrisy when he repeats the very same words?
Yep.
The elements of revolution in Russia are, unfortunately or fortunately, not yet ripe, says Struve. And this word, fortunately, shows him up completely. Yeah. It kind of makes me think about, like today, I know a lot of people are desperate and they want this change, but are enough people uncomfortable enough yet?
Not in America.
No, not at all.
No, but yeah. Well,
and I admit I'm one of the people that now I'm comfortable. I grew up pretty not well-to-do. And I when I was a young adult, I was, poor. And you've heard me tell the story where I lived on a bag of chips a day, 99-cent bag of chips a day. And that was even better than a lot of people had it, so my son could eat. But I'm much more comfortable now than I was then. But I will never, ever forget having to make chips last a day or two, a bag of chips last a day or two, just so I didn't go hungry.
Yeah. That's the thing is that people boomers are different because they benefited from more and more imperialism and wars in the US. So that's why they became more conservatives as they aged. But as I age, I get so much more. I know more. I know how evil everything is. And I get so much more angrier. Like last week, I was on Katie Halper's show. And somebody was like asking me about what about girls' education in Afghanistan? And I'm like, what girls' education are you talking about? You're like, there's nothing, there's no schools. Like the literacy rate, like, I just got really angry. Like obviously, like talking about rapey warlords will get anyone angry, but I just remember that, like, no, I can feel the rage. Like it's just because I know more and it feels more so I have not become more and more conservative. I've just gone whoosh. Is that my left side or my right? Or am I supposed to, let me do this again if I got my rights and left confused. Whoosh. Okay. Did I get my rights and left confused or no?
I don't know. This is left.
It depends on how you look at it. Like the first time it would look like the left from my perspective. So
okay. So use whatever take you want.
Okay.
Oh
gosh, where was I?
You were
okay.
Yes, that's where you were.
As for the glorious traditions of revolutionary thought, Mr. Struve would be well advised to keep silent on this score. Dude, shut up.
Yeah.
We need only refer to the famous closing words of the Communist Manifesto. We need only recollect that 30 years after the publication of the manifesto, when the German workers were deprived of a portion of the rights which the Russian people have never had, Engels retorted to Düring in the following words. Oh,
yeah. Oh, by the way, Engels is a huge troll, too. He wrote an entire book talking about how much Düring sucks. And he called it anti-Düringism. So, yeah.
To Herr Düring, force is the absolute evil. The first act of force is to him the original sin. His whole exposition is a jeremiade on the contamination of all subsequent
history.
I'm sorry?
History. There's an improper space.
Oh, history. Oh, his Tory. I was like, why are we talking about the Tories? All right, I'll start from the beginning. To Herr Düring, force is the absolute evil. The first act of force is to him the original sin. His whole exposition is a jeremiade on the contamination of all subsequent history consummated by this original sin, a jeremiade on the shameful perversion of all natural and social laws by this diabolical force, by this diabolical power, force. That force, however, plays also another role in history, a revolutionary role. That, in the words of Marx, it is the midwife of every social pregnant with a new one.
Every old society pregnant. I love that. It is revolutionary force is the midwife, as in it'll help birth. And I love this. Of every old society pregnant with the new one. Oh my God, that's such a good metaphor. I love this. So beautiful.
That is the instrument with the aid of which social movement forces its way through and shatters the dead, fossilized political forms. Of this, there is not a word of Herr Düring. It is only with sighs and groans that he admits the possibility that force will perhaps be necessary for the overthrow of the economic system of exploitation. Unfortunately, because all use of force, forsooth, demoralizes the person who, forsooth?
I don't know what that is.
Soothsayer. Like,
For soothsayer, yes.
The future, okay. Unfortunately, because all use this force, forsooth, demoralizes the person who uses it. And this in spite of the immense moral and spiritual impetus which has been given by every victorious revolution. And this in Germany, where a violent collision, which indeed may be forced on the people, would at least have the advantage of wiping out the servility which has permeated the national consciousness as a result of the humiliation of the 30 Years' War. And this Parsons mode of thought, lifeless, insipid, and impotent, claims the right to impose itself on the most revolutionary party that history has ever known.
Mm-hmm.
Sooth. Talking about Germany. Was he able to see that this was brewing? That
Engels?
In Germany, yeah. Because it was Germany with World War I too.
Okay. Lenin, Engels, all of them saw everything brewing. Like Marx, all of them. Like, so this is still 1902, but
yes,
Engels said this in like 18 something. So yes, and Engels understood like, oh, I know, it was right after the Paris Commune failed, where Engels has a conference and then they kick out this like Bakunin, I believe, he's like this like annoying anarchist. And basically Engels writes this piece like called on authority and about like why everyone has a right to, like, basically kind of explaining what force is and all this. So yes, Engels saw this, and yeah, that's all I have to say. Okay.
I just want to jump in here for a second that forsooth is actually one word, and it actually is just kind of it's an old term like saying indeed or
okay.
It just happens.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the weird spacing between, in the middle.
Yeah, because they did. Okay, this site, that's why I recopy it to vilenin.substack.com, because this site is filled with typos and I've tried telling them and they don't fix it. And it's also a trot. Don't worry if you don't know what a trot is, best not to know.
Oh, you see, now you've just piqued my interest.
I'll explain later.
Okay. Let us proceed to the second point, dealing with tolerance. What we need is mutual understanding, complete frankness, and great tolerance in relations between the various trends. We are unctuously instructed by Mr. Struve, like many socialist revolutionaries and exponents of public opinion.
Socialist Revolutionary is another party that kind of sucked. So Lenin belongs to the Russian Social Democratic and Labor Party. And the Socialist Revolutionaries are kind of like another political party that super sucks.
Okay. But what Struve is telling us is be nice.
Yeah.
Understand each other. And to a point, yes.
Oh, so he does. Okay. Oh my God, that's funny.
But not 100%. Like, you have to draw lines somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yes, you're a white supremacist and you go food shopping. That's great. You're a white supremacist. Doesn't mean I have to humanize you.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, and what should we do? We ask him if our complete frankness will seem to you to be lack of tolerance. If we, for example, find that Ostrovezhenia has a right hand and a left hand.
Did I do the correct hands or did I do the wrong hand? I should not try this. Okay, go on.
A pernicious and treacherous left hand does not complete frankness make it incumbent upon us to wage ruthless battle against the left hand? Does not such frankness oblige us to fight against the adventurism and political chicanery of the socialist revolutionaries when they display it both in questions of the theory of socialism and in the attitude they have towards the class struggle in all their tactics. I want to I was reading it, I wasn't absorbing. For complete frank. Well, that's a weird analogy to make, because the left hand and a right hand are permanently attached to the same body. So if this publication, Azva Bazdenya, has editors or authors
who are treacherous.
Yeah.
I don't.
They're not permanently attached to this publication. They could choose to leave. They might go hungry because they're paying them a salary, but they could choose to leave. So, I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Lenin does that with Iskra when the Mensheviks take over. He resigns from Iskra and starts Proletariat. So, yeah, you're right.
Okay, where was I?
Does not such
frankness oblige us to fight against the adventurism and political chicanery of the socialist revolutionaries when they display it in questions of the theory of socialism and in the attitude they have towards the class struggle and all their tactics. Okay, so the socialist revolutionaries, who you said kind of sucked.
They're just another party.
What was their attitude towards class struggle?
Exactly. Struve was in it. So they really kind of they did not kind of understand what was needed. So they didn't even understand exactly how to bring about change because they were very confused. So they did, in the beginning, they did a lot of like what you call revolutionary adventurism, where you do like rash things that like get a lot of people killed, but nothing accomplishes nothing. And then they went overboard the other way where they became too cautious. So they were just a mess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they were unorganized, and their principles were easily
totally a mess. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there even the slightest trace of political sense in the demand to water down the struggle and to render it innocuous for the sake of that which the very people the struggle is directed against needs to term tolerance?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so does it even make sense that you want to water down this struggle? Like, let's change struggle to fight, like water down this fight against, like, let's say you're going to war and you're like, hey, let's, not use machine guns because our enemies are going to think we're being intolerant of them. So let's just all die is kind of like, and he's like saying, this is ridiculous. Is there any sense to what they're saying?
All right. We're finally on the last paragraph here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is high time to dispense with your tawdry show of naivety, gentlemen.
Tawdry show of naivety. Oh my God. We need to use this every time. Like the walls, oh my God. They're like, the ones like, I hate it. Like I hate Chris Hayes does this tawdry show of naivety where every time he seems to be surprised that the Democrats are acting like Democrats, like it just drives me nuts.
Oh my God. Wait, I got, who was the labor secretary for Clinton again? What's his name? He wrote that book.
Robert Reich.
Robert Reich. I quote tweeted him a couple months ago and I said, look at him pretending like he doesn't know how it works. And he blocked me because, I called out his bullshit. But it's the same thing. It's like you're feigning not knowing what's going on.
The tawdry show, exactly. Tawdry show of naivety.
You are in this. You are the system. You're part of the system. Don't tell me you don't know what's going on. Stop putting on a show. Just, admit it. A lot of people are not, most people are not as ignorant as you think that they are. They just so desperately want to believe in something that they believe you, and you're taking advantage of that. What a piece of shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I do remember, like, I keep saying like Chris Hayes, like his, like Democrats behaving like Democrats. Oh my God. I'm surprised. I've like so often quote tweeted him because he's annoying on that. Like, yeah, it just irritates me.
Yeah.
He's the one that always comes to mind. The tawdry show of naivety.
I may put that line in my bio now. I'm like, hey.
Tawdry show of naivety. Chris Hayes. I should tweet this. Let's tweet this at, okay, sure. Let's tweet this at him next time he does this. Like tomorrow, I bet you. It's like,
Okay,
I cannot believe the U.S. would like whatever, some like U.S. had death squads that kill toddlers. I don't know. I mean, whatever. Like,
yeah, they've been doing it for decades.
yeah, exactly.
How do I know this and you don't? Okay.
Everyone knows this, but yeah.
High time to understand the simple truth that it is not political chicanery, not what the late Stepniak once called.
He's a writer for a magazine called Narodnaya Volya.
Okay. Not what the late Stepniak once called self-restriction and self-concealment. Not the conventional lie of diplomatic mutual recognition. That's
exactly it. So for example, I remember like Rachel Maddow once really drove me nuts with this. Oh my God, Trump is meeting with Kim Jong-un, who's like a dictator. Oh my God, can you believe that a US president is meeting with, kind of like, yes. It's like, and it's like, you can't even go like 90 minutes without like praising dictators. So just be quiet. And also like, if he was really a dictator, you would totally be supporting him because he'd let you like frack their natural resources or whatever you guys want to do, but whatever. like the conventional lie of diplomatic mutual recognition is the perfect word.
Not the conventional lie of diplomatic recognition that
diplomatic mutual
diplomatic mutual recognition that ensure a genuine and not merely an alleged joint struggle against the common enemy, but actual participation in the struggle, actual unity in struggle. When the struggle of the German social democrats against the military police and the feudal clerical reaction really became one with the struggle of any genuine party which relied for support upon a definite class of people. For instance, the liberal bourgeoisie. Then joint action was instituted without any phrase-mongering about mutual recognition.
Phrase-mongering is his word for like word salad.
Got it.
Or empty phrases. Yeah.
Yep. One does not talk about recognizing a fact that is obvious to everyone and felt by everyone. We, for instance, do not ask anyone to recognize the working class movement. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, today, people are, all over. They're refusing to go back to work for poverty wages. People in different factories and companies across the country are protesting. They're I can't think of the word.
There's a wheat thins Nabisco factory. Nabisco wheat thins, some sort of factory.
Nabisco. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They had to walk out and there's a little bit. I mean, granted, I do not watch the news that much. My husband comes home and he sits down and he'll read MSNBC, CNN, and Fox just to laugh about it.
I'd rather be tortured. Actually, in that case, I need to consult with him so he can like find me nice clips to play for like, he needs to like, in that case, he needs to write down like some good clips to troll them with. Cause that's the worst thing is like, I would rather, like, I always try to download the transcript and skip through. Oh God, I'd rather be tortured. But yeah, actually, can you ask him to like write down the date and time of any good clips that I can make fun of?
I'll see. I'll ask him he may not remember. He's so tired when he comes home from work. He's one of those people that work 6 days a week, like 10 hours a day.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah. And he's at work at 5 o'clock.
I met him at the Bernie rally from.
You did? The tall skinny guy.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's continue.
Yeah. All right.
That was really a fun day. I had a lot of fun that day.
Oh my God, me too. It really was. It was so great seeing you in person. We live so close to each other most times, and
I know we should. Well, okay. I'm going to spend. Yeah, we should absolutely hang out more.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Only people who confuse politics with political chicanery can think that the tone of polemics can.
Polemics is trolling, but yeah.
Okay. Only people who confuse politics with political chicanery can think that the tone of polemics can interfere with a genuine political alliance.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, this is like, I always made fun of this when they're like, I used to like Bernie, but then I'm like, okay, so it's like, I used to love Bernie, but then somebody called me a neoliberal on Twitter, and now I just want to drone Yemen. Like, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
It's like, no, that now did not happen. You don't suddenly want to drone Yemen because somebody called you a neoliberal on Twitter. Come on. Yeah.
But
like,
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just making up like some obscure account, like Marx 007 1917, like some like egg account, like called you a neoliberal. Like that did not make you want to drone Yemen. So that's right. Like, yeah. So, do you remember that, like those correct the record trolls in 2016 towards the, like it was towards September. They literally had, I used to support Bernie, but blah, blah, blah. You remember that?
Oh, I do remember those. I was on Facebook back then. I wasn't very, very, very active at all on Twitter at that point, but I did mod a few groups for Bernie back then. And by September, I had already taken a back seat to social media.
Yeah.
And because I had to take a break. It was too much for me to handle. But yeah, modding those groups, you saw a lot of that. And it was even before September that they were doing that, at least on Facebook. There was a lot of people in the groups that we were in. Oh, I remember this one group I was in. I wasn't modding it. It was run by a husband and wife or a boyfriend, girlfriend team who did marketing for a living. And one day it was a Bernie group. And then overnight, they booted a lot of the real hardcore Bernie supporters, and it became a Clinton group. And it was still while the primary was going on. I can't remember their names, and I've tried Googling for it, but I can't. And it was a big thing back then, so it was talked about. But I don't remember their names. It's going back 5 years, I
know. But yeah, like I remember all. Like actually, but it's funny because I am like the corrected trolls actually made me like really backfired on me because I hate whatever like the lie. Like I'm so suspicious of everything that a lot of people in some contexts, actually, yeah, literally in very few contexts, apparently, that I'm like, no, this is not what my memory said. And I'd go check and things were actually worse. Like that made Hillary look worse than what they said. Like my original thing was this, but then I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So what I was saying was that, so the correct the record trolls actually had the opposite effect. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the same tone policing is always there. It's like, how you support, like they do it all the time. And it's like, yeah, no, you would not. It's like, and if somebody on Twitter calling you neoliberal makes you want to drone people in Yemen, you're a total psychopath and you're never on your side, on our side. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but so long as we have evasive talk instead of genuine participation in our struggle, so long as we have only adventurous tactics instead of a genuine advance toward our struggle on the part of some other social stratum or class, no spate of threatening or miserable words will bring mutual recognition one iota nearer.
Yep, because that's the thing that so many Americans don't understand. It is a class conflict, as in, it's what you call like this. So it's definitely a class conflict, and so you can't get like all of society to consent. Like right. You will have to punch through some people in society. And a lot of Americans don't understand that this is a real class conflict. So yeah, like, and in real class, actually, when it's a real war where there are like fighting till death, yeah, you don't like mutual recognition comes from like basically the bombs or the tractors. I'm so sorry. Tanks. All right.
That was the end of it.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah. I don't read theory. I think you know that already, but
yeah.
I do read, but not much theory, to be honest with you.
Well, I understand, but that's why I wanted to do this show, to like help people understand why we need to read theory, because all of this has been done before. And the cool thing, it's like, okay, liberal theory is just nonsense that they just make up, and it just like ages badly. And about 10 years later, like you need to toss it. Mm-hmm. But Marxist theory withstands the test of time, because it's actually what happens is that like it's like done in this iterative method where you have a theory, then you see if it bears out in practice. If it does not, you throw it away, you come back. And like, so if it's lasted for like 100 years, 120, 119, 115 years, whatever, it means that it has withstood the test of time. Like otherwise you'd never have heard of Lenin. You know what I mean? So a lot of people don't realize that Marxist theory is different than liberal nonsense that liberals call theory. So, and the reason why we need it is because they control the news, the media, the schools, the education. So with that system, they'll never teach you how to overthrow them, because that would be a stupid thing to teach. So they'll teach you a lot of wrong, like ways to just where you think you're going to change the system, but it'll just like lead you to a dead end. Like, have you thought about joining the local Democratic Party? You can't just like show up every 4 years for elections. You have to be involved. Like all those, I mean, those are all utter nonsense. Because you are working, like the system is designed so that you cannot get involved if you're working like 14 hours a day or God knows what, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Exactly. I work an 8-hour day and I'm too tired to get truly involved in stuff. I don't know how people do it. I'll be honest with you.
You're pretty involved in my opinion. But yeah. And well, there's another thing that I kind of have a problem with a lot of people in America is that they just kind of think that if you just, a lot of people show up with signs like magically things will transform, as opposed to understanding the logistical nature of inconvenient, whatever.
I blame that, honestly, I blame that on the media, because what they would do is they would romanticize the protests and just show pictures of people with signs and things got done. They wouldn't show
violence.
They wouldn't show the actual fighting going on. I mean, with social media now, you see it more often, but I mean, if you think about it, like up through the 90s, we didn't have access to that on a grand scale. And so we had to rely on either word of mouth or what was being reported in the news and in newspapers. And what we saw was a very watered down version of what was really happening.
Wow. Okay.
You think you agree with that? Or do you think?
How do I say? I actually don't remember it too well because I'm a little too young to remember it too well. Sorry.
Okay, just make me feel old.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I do remember, and it was very much like I remember my mom and dad watching CNN 24/7 when something was going on, but they would repeat the same information over and over again. And it was never anything deep or substantial, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I have the 90. Yeah. So I can tell you like, because I've studied history a lot from the podcast, like I can tell you about the incubator babies. But a lot is not, I don't have the same memories, but you're right. And there's also a book called Why We Should Ban TV. And it's like, it's very scary, but read it and it'll tell you like, I'll find it. I'll send a link to it. Like, I can't remember the exact name of the book, something about banning TV. And he makes a really good case for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Send me the link. Definitely. And I guess it has a lot to do with the underlying themes of TV shows and movies that we watch, not just the MSM.
No. I think it has to do with, there's also the aspect that instead of like going outside and talking to your neighbors, you and your family of 4 is like stuck in this room watching this like disgusting propaganda and you're isolated. Yeah. So there's a lot. So So Beth, how do people find you on Twitter?
Oh, come on. I'm Fairy Wings.
Exactly.
So
And she is one of the best follows. She's very incisive, very insightful. And
I should post too.
Oh yeah, you do.
But thank you.
No. That's what makes you funny too. Yeah, and we need to make like one day all of us needs to compare our like who's like we need to have like a block list tier. Like for me, I think Meghan McCain's block is probably the biggest block I've gotten.
William Shatner.
Tell us about William Shatner.
All I said was Picard was the better captain.
Obviously.
within a minute, I was blocked. I thought I lived on Twitter. This dude lives on Twitter. Cher blocked me and I had no interactions with her. Wait, maybe one.
Hold on. Okay. William Shatner blocked you because you said Picard was the better captain, which is absolutely 100% true. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Yeah. Let's see. I think Anna Kasparian blocked me a couple.
Oh yeah, Anna Kasparian blocked me too. She's blocked.
She is way too sensitive, honey. You're in the public, okay? You're gonna have criticism. Like I'm gonna get criticism from this. I know I'm gonna get criticism from this. The usual trolls are going to come out and they're going to find me and they're going to start.
You're engaging in East Turkestan denialism or whatever.
And I'm not, and the thing is that, and just to clarify, I don't know what I would be called because I don't necessarily believe in labels. So am I a communist? Maybe. Am I an anarchist? Maybe. Am I a Leninist? Maybe. Am I a Marxist? Maybe. I don't know. I don't really care for myself. What I do is I know how we should be, and that's a goal that we should fight for, and that applying labels for me personally is not necessarily unless you're a shitlib. But but shitlibs don't need labels. They're like they just are.
You can just tell. Like, yeah. Oh my God, I cannot believe William Shatner blocked you for saying Picard.
Oh my God.
That's objectively true though.
It's okay. He can leave me blocked.
No, but it's
fine with
hilarious. Hilarious.
It is so funny. I was actually dying. I was like, I said it and he blocked me. And I think John was home and I was like, oh my God, John. John. I was like, I got blocked by Shatner. He was like, what'd you do? I just spoke the truth. And
this is about a character that he didn't even write. So the character he played.
Two seasons? The original.
4 seasons.
Oh, 4 seasons? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I did try to watch the original series and it was just too campy for me. So
it's terrible. Yeah. But that's okay. By the way, oh gosh. Okay, well, so for me, it's Meghan McCain when she was like talking about fascism and her father. And I was like, no, Meghan, this is not what fascism looks like. This is what fascism looks like. And I showed a picture of her father with Ukrainian Nazis.
I was going to say, you showed her a picture of her father doing something.
Yeah.
But
boom, block.
Yeah, you know what? I have been tried to be blocked by the likes of Alyssa Milano. And by the way, my @ is FAERIEWHINGS, Alyssa, if you want to block me. And who's that? Arquette. Patty Arquette.
Oh, yeah.
I really tried so hard. She's actually engaged with me a couple times. I was so mean to her and she wouldn't block me. Again, it's Patty. It's FAERIEWHINGS. That is my @ So go ahead and block me if you want.
Yeah. Like I can never like beat the Meghan McCain. Well, no, I'm sure I'll beat it, but I'm sure it'll be for something really stupid too. So we'll see who's gonna block me. Anna Kasparian, actually, it's kind of funny because she was accusing Aaron of what was it? Like whitewashing something. And I'm like, okay, you just praised the president of Estonia, who's an actual fascist. You're kind of whitewashing like the Holocaust, but whatever. Oh, the NATO summit. Oh, she went to this. You remember? Okay. Okay, well, I have to go to my Russian class in about 5 minutes, but
Okay.
Do you remember the NATO conference she went to? I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was clearly like a NATO conference, and she was like softballed at Madeleine. It was so disgusting.
Yep. I remember that.
And she's like, "Whoa, what do you think about?" And it's like, "Shut up!" Like the only question she should have asked is, "Was 500,000 Iraqi children worth it?"
And she would have said yes.
Yeah, and that's the only
Absolutely
question.
would have said yes, or she would have avoided the question. And
well, no, see, that's why Anna got to go and ask the questions. I'll never get to go and ask the questions because that's the first question I'm going to ask Madeleine Albright: were 500,000 dead Iraqi children worth it to you still? And she'd be like, and I'd be like, blocked. So that's why I will never be right. So, and that's why Anna gets to be in front of Madeleine Albright.
Oh yeah, because she's a player in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. So I wrote it in the chat, but Esha needed to go get some sleep. She had a busy week, so we're just gonna end on that note. She'll be back next week. She'll probably be on doing live ones during the week. So talk to you soon. I can't say her whatever it is that she says now. So good night. Have a good one. Thanks.